I would say really in the last 10 years, I have had more women reach out to me that they only want to work with a female or a woman broker, developer, any of that. And now it's just an amazing career for women to get into commercial real estate, to either be a real estate manager, develop, what you're doing, owning land, flipping land, getting in it at an early age. It is just amazing. Where you will be like when you're my age. Oh my gosh.
Get ready for the next iteration of you on your path to becoming wealthy. On this show, you'll get the insider's view on wealth creation, the class none of us got taught in school, with my co-host, daughter, and beginning investor, Sophia Bosch. And now, let's get started. Welcome to the Becoming Wealthy podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Bosch, my co-host,
Sophia Bosch.
And we are excited today to talk about commercial real estate. We have a super special guest today. She is a power broker in the commercial space in the state of Texas. And really nationwide, she has over 30 years of experience. She has been, recognized as one of the top 10 admired women in real estate. She's ranked like number 13 in commercial real estate influencer on LinkedIn. She's a best-selling author. She has her own show called The Pam Goodwin Show. And so with that, I would like to introduce you all to Pam Goodwin. How are you, Pam? Good to have you here.
Thank you so much from Dallas, Texas. I look forward to talking with both of you today. And I always love talking about commercial real estate.
Yes. Sophia, you want to kick us off?
On that note, I don't exactly know what is considered commercial real estate. Would you mind explaining that to me first?
Sure. The definition of commercial real estate pretty much is anything over like a 4-unit residential. So anything to do with where you go, movie theater to office buildings. We consider church. So anything is all of that in that category, commercial real estate, from McDonald's to Starbucks to Walgreens. That's all, considered commercial real estate. People specialize in just doing commercial real estate for funeral homes. So a lot of people find a niche, working on what they like to do.
Yeah. So you are familiar already with commercial, but we call it here in our family, we call it multifamily, but multifamily is just a subset within the commercial real estate umbrella. Yeah. So, so how did you get started, like in your career? Is that where you started, Pam, in commercial real estate, or were you doing something else?
I actually have a degree in interior design. I always knew I wanted to do commercial interiors, and my dream was to do interior design for hotels. And I did get an offer right out of college. I went to the University of Nebraska at Lincoln, and I did get a job offer at JW Marriott to move to Bethesda, Maryland. And I ended up staying in Omaha and designing office interiors for 1 year. But it's funny how, and then I from that, the company who was doing the office interiors ended up they developed shopping centers in your state of Arizona, in Casa Grande and Cottonwood. And then that was kind of like the power centers in the late 80s. I know I'm aging myself, and that was like innovation back then. But so I was flying back and forth going to Arizona, and then it kind of evolved. I ended up getting into larger projects, project management for large shopping center development, overseeing that. And then when I moved to Texas, I ended up working on the tenant side, which Brinker International, and at the time they owned 5 restaurant concepts, but are familiar with Chili's, and ended up developing more than 50 of those from the ground up. So it was a great way to earn a great income and all the free food I want, and learn. I had 3 years of learning how to develop property. And that was just a great way to start my company. I did 18 years ago.
Wow. So Brinker International then is kind of like Fox Concepts here. I would assume here in Arizona, they own several restaurant chains. And so you're working for them. And then how does a company like that, like a Chili's or all these, bigger franchises, how do they go about deciding, okay, this piece of land versus this other piece of land? What are some of the parameters in commercial real estate specifically for that you're looking at that would make the ideal spot to open one up?
A lot of for Chile, since Brinker, that's the parent company, and they were all corporate locations, but they typically would need about an acre and a half property. And at that time, we were going in front of almost every Walmart, Target, Lowe's, Home Depot, taking a pad site right out in front where, there's always a lot of activity at those type of locations. But you can go to most of, right now we develop property and, you can go on those national tenants. For example, let's just take McDonald's because they're one of the largest real estate companies in the world and they own more than $40 billion worth of real estate. But you can go on their real estate towards the bottom of their website and look up real estate and it will tell you exactly what they need. Or 7-Eleven does. A lot of the companies, they, especially if they're a public company, they have to open up a certain amount of stores and they share that information, right on their website. They tell you how many cars have to be passing by. That's really important. Like Starbucks, they go on the going to work side so you can get your coffee. A lot of them all have different criteria of what they look for in those national tenants.
So the fact that, we drive by a Starbucks, Sophia, it's just not, it wasn't like random. Oh, there's a perfect spot here, for us to open a shop. That there's some criteria that basically that specific intersection or location needs to fit in order for them to say, okay, we're making an investment. Because usually, I mean, I don't know, do you know the typical investment to put up a Starbucks by chance, Pamela?
A lot of the Starbucks nowadays, they're doing a build-a-suit. So if you're the landlord, you're actually building the building for them. And then, but they're all completely different. Some of them are build-a-suits. Some of them are, you just have to lease the land to them. For example, we bought 5 acres of land and we were able to do a build-a-suit for Walgreens. And then we did a ground lease. All we did was lease the ground to McDonald's and Chase Bank, and then they built their entire building.
Amazing. So, Sophia, so that means for you, this opens up a completely new world in that you have been targeting, path of growth land, and you have been targeting recreational land. But we could be going exclusively in our filtering, for example, for your land flipping business, we could go and start filtering exclusively for infill lots of at least an acre. And we could go basically say, that is zoned commercial. What does it need to be zoned?
Well, I mean, it does zone, but I've done a lot of rezoning. Rezoning. So it just depends on that's one of the first things you do have to find out is what the property is zoned. And then you go meet with the city. And if it has to be rezoned, you go through that process.
Rezone. So for example, say that it was rezoned for office space. And we would need it to be rezoned, for example, for a Starbucks. It would have to have a different denomination or a different zoning
allowed to be
of what it's allowed to be. So basically, you can't have an area like where we live right now that is residential, and all of a sudden Starbucks decide to be our neighbor next door. That just doesn't happen. Basically, the city planning, there's a city planning office that designates basically certain areas are going to be residential, and residential as in like how many homes can fit in 1 acre. Some areas are going to be, designated as office space. Some others are going to be multifamily. And so each and every one, has been given a specific zoning by the city, but you can always appeal that zoning and
try and
ask
change
for
it.
exactly to try to change it. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, that's what in
So
commercial real estate. So if that's one of the main things too. When we were doing the Chili's, and I even do all the due diligence today, but I have about a 70-page list of all of the requirements for that land because, since you're in the land business, every piece of land is different. And when you're developing, I've had utilities, 6 lanes on the other side of the road that we had to bore, under the road to bring those utilities to us. And then zoning, that's really meeting with the city because you might have to have like a SUP, a special use permit, sometimes even for drive-throughs. So
yeah.
there is a lot into it, but it's a lot of fun to be in, and that's a great way to get started. Are what we call these single tenant net lease properties. So I'm talking Walgreens, Starbucks, Chase, the individual ones that if you buy the land, lease it to them. Your goal, hopefully, is to at least make $500,000 to $1 million by selling that 10-year ground lease with a national tenant. So it just can take one deal to make you a millionaire on one deal. And, as the developer, you're not having to operate that Starbucks. You're just leasing the land to them.
Now, when you say leasing the land, if she was to find a piece of land like the one that you're describing,
Yeah,
it
how
fits
would
are
I
the
go with that?
criterias. I mean, is there someone else that is developing then and building the actual improvement, on the land? Do you bring a partner for that? If you're just a landowner, or how does that work? Give us a little window into your world.
So the tenant will actually construct their own building.
Okay.
Some tenants, it's called a build-a-suit. You, as the developer, like from when we were doing Walgreens, we would buy the land and we would buy their entire we would construct their entire building and then they would do the interior stuff, but we would construct the building, and that's called a build-a-suit. But a lot of the tenants you have the half an acre, and Chick-fil-A's taken 2 acres now, but if Chick-fil-A wants to go there, they will build their own building. A lot of the tenants will build their own building, and then they're paying you, anywhere from 60 to 200,000 or more. It just depends, annually, just to lease your property. And then so you're putting all of the taxes, insurance, common area maintenance, everything on them. As a landlord, you're just collecting that rent every month from them.
Now,
so you don't have any toilets, nothing.
Yeah. Now the play here, Pamela, is that, these big corporations won't necessarily work with Sophia. They already work with, I'm assuming, established commercial real estate brokers such as yourself, where they come to you and they say, we're looking for something like this. And say, Sophia would have a piece of land that would fit that requirement. Then she would bring this, piece of land to you so that you could basically broker this deal, or how would this work?
I would recommend, if you have the piece of land, I would recommend like teaming up with me or someone who's done it in the past.
Yeah.
And going through the process with a national tenant. Yeah. But let's say, I know so many people that had the land and had no idea what to do, and they just got on the phone and called any of those national tenants and just say, hey, I have a piece of land, here it is. You have to do a little bit. They get bombarded with sites. So you really have to sell the sizzle on your story. So let's just say I keep going back to, McDonald's is growing like crazy. We literally have one like at every intersection, but you would let them know where the closest tenant is, the closest Starbucks or McDonald's. Kind of do some homework and sell why that Starbucks needs to go there. Do some homework when you're sending it to the real estate manager up front.
Okay. So basically for Starbucks or for whatever national chain it is. Amazing. Now, I want to, segue here a little bit and ask you, what is one of the most lucrative deals that you have been involved, in this space. And can you like break it down for us, just for us to again get an idea of what your world is like?
Sure. I mean, thank goodness I, have had a few, but the first one that came to mind was the one where we did do 5 acres and we put a Walgreens, Chase, and McDonald's. That one was very profitable. But one that people drive by all the time was just a vacant old building and then a tenant next door on a hard corner. And this guy was retiring and wanted to sell both of them. And the old building that was vacant, I think it was a vacant 7-Eleven and had not been occupied. And I just asked him to put it under contract, for $5,000. And
Wow,
then
that's not a whole lot for. I'm thinking commercial real estate, and it's a corner lot, and it's commercial and something like that. I'm thinking like big money, in order to put it under contract. But what you're saying, $5,000. Wow, that's not.
I've put some vacant drive-through buildings under contract for $500.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that is amazing.
Yeah, so we had so that vacant building just turned out really well. I just knew it was a hard corner. I mean, people drive by properties all day long, vacant properties, your market. And we ended up, even my husband's like, you will never get that much rent, for that building based off your performance. And I was so excited I didn't. I actually got like $33 a square foot, and that mattress firm paid. And then we bought the building next door, and I had a partner in the deal, and she's also in real estate, and we flipped it and we made more than $1 million on those 2 properties.
Wow. Now beginning to end, finding the property to the flip, how long did that take?
That one was quicker because it was just a redevelopment. It was an existing building, but that's about a 12-month process.
Okay. So if that's the quick one, what would be the longer one? Yeah, the more traditional way.
The longer one is when you actually have to build from the ground up and take land. So the same partner, we've teamed up, and we actually just bought a bank in July, a vacant Regions Bank building in Birmingham, Alabama, right out front of Walmart at a great price. And now we have a national tenant who is looking for it. I actually just put it on, LoopNet. That's where a lot of commercial real estate people put their properties on LoopNet, and then CoStar owns LoopNet. And the CEO, he had a criteria on LoopNet of properties, and then he had his person call the next day on the property. So crossing our fingers that one helps. But there's a lot of vacant banks that are happening, and you can drive around your city and start looking to see what some of these conversions are.
I was gonna say, I've driven by, for example, old well, you said 7-Eleven, but I'm thinking here on Shea, there's like an old gas station. But when it's a gas station, I'm thinking like, is it a brownfield, and the environmental issues that come with that? Are those like things that would deter you?
No, because I've had to handle those before when we were doing Walgreens, because they were always taking those corner gas station that we would have to go through that process. To me, a dry cleaners is one of the, I hate to say that, but a dry cleaners is one of the most environmental out there. I just had an office building that it can be almost a mile away, and that dry cleaners is popping up on the phase 1 of an issue that required a phase 2. So when you're looking at property, even though there was the gas station just right next door, it was the, dry cleaners that was causing the issue on contaminated. That happened to us on a Walgreens too, across the street. We had to do some environmental work. So I'm on a radar for dry cleaners, even though they have cleanup programs for them.
Yeah. Now, can you explain to Sophia phase 1, phase 2? What does that mean?
Yeah, I don't know.
And when you're doing your due diligence, I always recommend it's called a phase 1 environmental report. And you hire a company that will do the history of the property and do a thorough and on the environmental part of looking at what was built there before, like the history of the entire property. That they have pictures from when it was land all the way. I mean, if it's still land, it'll be land, but if they can see what was built there. But it's always a good thing to get when you're developing property. And a lot of times it's in the, just a little over a couple $1,000, but it can save you a lot of money if some of these environmental come up. So that's some of the basic upfront. And then there's also a soils report that you may want to do too, to test the soil if there's any water contamination or environmental that are coming from those gas stations.
And
There's
you
all
do that
kinds of things.
actually with all commercials, Sophia, in your due diligence experience, where you're basically you have the property under contract and you're investigating. You pay for all of that, and we actually had to pull out of like 94 units out in Oklahoma City once because it didn't pass the phase 1, and then the phase 2. We could see that this was gonna turn into something that we didn't want to deal with, and own for 5 years and turn around, and we have, fiduciary to our investors. And do we really want to be the owners and the landlords of a possible place where there's water contamination? Yeah. So we pulled out, for that reason. But that's definitely, thank you for bringing that up, and something that I'm familiar with, and you probably hear us talk about it, but you're like, what in the world is phase 1?
I think it goes over my head.
Absolutely.
You can go on all of those websites to check the environmental. You can do a lot of the pre-work yourself. Like we have the TCEQ here in Texas, so I'm always on their website or seeing if any road construction is coming in, and all of that. And I was also going to tell you another good way to start your thing, development. And since both of you like land a lot, we currently have with the same real estate partner. We've been friends for a long time, and we just work really well together because we just do kind of different things. And so, as far as partnerships,
we complement.
Yeah, right. We really complement each other on our skills, and we both have probably 35 years of experience. But we currently have 6 acres under contract in a city just about an hour north of Dallas that's really booming. And I just went to go meet with the local economic development director. I have a list of 10 questions, and I can share with you and your guests, but I go to the economic development director and find out if they have any land for sale. And they actually did. They had 6 acres right on the main highway across from Walmart, where all the new retailers are coming. And I feel like they gave us a very fair price and a good amount of time to work on it, to bring some national tenants in. And that, so
you basically bought directly from the city then?
Right now, we have it under contract for $10,000, 6 acres.
Wow. And you said it's the economic development office or center?
Correct. The economic.
We should look for the equivalent of that here in Arizona.
Yes, absolutely. You should. Yep. And I happy to give you, I can email you my 10 questions I asked the economic development, but all the cities around the entire U.S. and probably world, but we'll just talk the U.S., but all the cities own property, and they're always buying and selling. I mean, just recently I was the broker on the city was actually buying, so they hired me as their broker. They wanted to go buy property in their city to start developing themselves. So, they hired me to help them as their broker, and I represented them, and they closed on both pieces of property. So they're constantly buying and selling, but a great resource. So now we just got an extension until next May to be able to work on the 6 acres.
That's amazing. What's the potential on those 6 acres?
We'll plan on doing 2 to 3 ground leases up front. leasing
Okay.
them. And then
Uh-huh.
in the back, the 4 acres, we're either looking at townhomes or storage or something creative
Oh,
back
wow.
there, something to really
So
help the
anywhere
city.
between 1.5 and 3 million on just the front part, and then the back part, this is like a multi-million dollar opportunity right there at your hands then.
Right, it will be, right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I mean, right now we don't have much invested in it except our time to
Yeah.
go find the tenants and you know, all that. So that's a good way for people to get started to go. I always, you know, a lot of people don't know where to get started because it's overwhelming. I always say just, you know, go in your community or go take a drive 20 miles somewhere. You know, you can always find, you know, someone. I mean, I'm always looking for real estate 7 days a week as I'm driving around, and you
Yeah.
can kind of tell what's happening in communities as far as who's, you know, who's building, you know, where they're
Mhm.
going. When we had In-N-Out Burger come here, I think they
Woo.
built like 25 or 30 of them here in the DFW area. And then Raising Cane's, they ended up moving their headquarters.
Oh, you're talking up Sophia's alley. She's a very, very loyal customer of both those chains.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
me too. I love both of them. They actually went next to each other, so I can never decide. Am I going to Cane's? Am I going to go get a burger? Because I like both of them. You
Yes.
like them, huh? But yeah, so those kind of companies, when you start seeing them growing, they come into a market and need people like you that have land or can have the time, you know, that know the area well. And then once you have that land, and you know, you can just approach their real estate managers. And then we have all kinds of different conferences to meet the real estate managers or the right people in
Oh,
person. We have a big annual event in Las Vegas every May. And then
what is the name of that event?
it's ICSC, and it's in Las Vegas. It's the big national conference that people come from around the world, but it's everybody that is doing anything to do with retail, commercial real estate. So Walmart, Target, Star, all of those national tenants are there, golf courses, hotels, you name,
Wow.
they're at that. They're right. Yeah, it's a good event to go to just to really start meeting people. And then we have smaller ones too that all they have is the real estate managers there, and you're showing them, you know, your aerial where your land is, and you know, talking to them. You get to meet them one on one, because that is the hardest part in our business, is finding the right person to talk to.
Yeah. I see. Wow. That you just open a complete new world here for us. Like yeah, they gotta meet somewhere. And they gotta come together as a, you know, as an industry, and of course Las Vegas.
Right.
Yeah.
Do
So
those companies ever want to like, in you're saying tenants, do they ever want to just buy the piece of land from you?
Yes.
Oh, right.
sometimes they
Yes.
do.
Yep.
Do you
So
would you rather, or would, in what instance would you sell it to them?
If it's a good price, and sometimes there are some, you know, that's a really good question. My first deal that I ever did after I left Chili's, it was a small town called Copperas Cove, Texas. And I knew that Chili's, I left on good terms, that they wanted a location down there. And so I put it under contract. It was, you know, I don't know, I think for $2,500. And Chili's ended up not going because at that time they went from 150 locations to, they put a hold on everything. But I still had the property under contract, and Discount Tires wanted it, you know, and they're based in your area. They only buy. So we just had it under contract, and we bought it and sold it the same day to them. And we made, it was like $175,000 profit that we made on that deal. You know, we just did that. And sometimes,
Not too bad.
Oh, so
some-
there's company preferences, like, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, again, bringing the conversation in a slightly different direction, because you blew our minds right now. We've learned so much, but I also am interested in knowing, has it been an advantage or a disadvantage as a lady in commercial real estate? You know, what has been the biggest advantage or disadvantage, or have you not experienced any of that?
That's a good question. I mean, I feel like my entire career that I've had to prove myself, and but now having my own business and being a woman broker in Texas, um, you'd be I would say really in the last 10 years, I have had more women reach out to me that they only want to work with a female or a woman broker, developer, any of that. And now it's just an amazing career for women to get into commercial real estate, to either be a real estate manager, develop. I mean, what you're doing, owning land, flipping land, getting in it at an early age. I mean, it is just amazing. I mean, where you will be, like when you're my age, oh my gosh, you'll just be to learn it at your age. I mean, we have two sons that are 23 and almost 25, and preaching to them to get started, really, really early. But I feel like it's an advantage. I mean, I've always had a hard hat on. I'm a tough negotiator being on those projects. And I'm still to this day, I can still always, be the only woman in the room. But I mean, I still take a, look at that. But a lot of times too, now there's so many women in the industry where I feel like we do such a great job because we shop and we eat and we do all that compared, we know what's going on in the market. We know when there's a new restaurant and a retailer. If I tell my husband, hey, did you see that new retailer or restaurant? He's like, what? And I think we're so observant as we just have that natural thing. I think I would say the thing that probably, I guess it helps or not is, well, somebody just wanted me to list one of their projects and they're like, Pam, we want to go with you because you're the only one that seemed like you really, truly care, And I'm like, yeah, to be honest, a lot of hate to say it, but a lot of the men that I work with, they're in it for the commission. And I genuinely, have that really wanting to help people. And now I'm on a mission to help people invest in commercial real estate or get started on their first one to build wealth. And just like your company has done an amazing job with that too.
Yeah. So in that, what does becoming wealthy mean to you?
Just being able to travel as much as I want. And I don't want to be the broker that has to, show a lot of property. That's why I like to develop property because I don't have to be home. I can be negotiating when, in Croatia, where I love to go. And people are probably like, it doesn't even look like she's working. But, I mean, they're like, she's traveling again. And it gives me that opportunity to have that freedom. To me is success of, I don't need to buy stuff anymore. I don't, I mean, it's nice, but I'm, I guess my first part of my career, I was achievement. And now my life is all about fulfillment. And that's how I feel what really brings me financial freedom. I mean, you could keep doing these deals and it is a lot of hard work. You can make really good money, but, I'm just
fulfillment or success without fulfillment is really not being wealthy, is what you're saying. And I honor that. I think we completely align, when it comes to that as well. Right. Now at this point in your career, you said you care most about fulfillment. What are you excited about? Like what excites Pam right now then? The travel? I know the bank property that you have right now under contract.
I love ice cream. So I just stopped by and went into an ice cream store and I had no intention. I just wanted some ice cream, but I loved the product and I met the owners. They were both there. So I'm like, can I just videotape you and put it on, my Instagram to help your business? And then, so I did that. And then I got on my Instagram. I got like some of the most likes. And then he got a hold of me and he wants to invest in commercial real estate. And, it's funny how where your business comes from. But, I really just kind of
creating value for someone, without the expectation of anything in return. And here you go.
Yeah, it used to drive my boys crazy. I'd go through the drive-through and I'm like, did you know this? I mean, the dry cleaners. And I'm like, did you know this location would just make a great fast food location? Have you ever thought about selling it? And anyways, we ended up selling that and he relocated on it. And I did a 5-acre deal that they ended up buying. It's so funny how where business comes from. I just think it's, everywhere you're talking to, but I just really enjoy traveling and looking for new innovation and new concepts.
Yeah.
Like I love traveling to, like, if I came to Arizona, something new and exciting that I could bring to Texas, or if I go to California or Florida or Boston and just get new innovative ideas that those tenants need to, be. I really like that. And then posting about how a grocery store is converted into a storage unit.
Yeah.
I'm really, really involved in LinkedIn and just kind of giving other people ideas of that. I just have a lot of fun combining travel, photos, social media, helping people.
And very relational. She goes and she talks to the owner. She doesn't just go there as a consumer and enjoy the ice cream, but if she has the opportunity to talk to someone, you do. And that is something that I think for us women also comes so much more naturally without it coming across as like I have a secret agenda, for approaching you. No, you just genuinely love the product and, did something for them. And now, that just, it's kind of like you go first and the universe comes and listens and sends some magic back to you. So, what would be, I know I want to honor your time. What would be, a piece of advice, and perhaps we can wrap it up with this, a piece of advice that you would give, a 17-year-old or just any woman starting the commercial real estate space?
I would say exactly what you're doing, just learning and gravitating to something that you really, really like. If you like doing the land deals, or if you like, but really just finding a way. My motto is find a way. I have that hashtag and then never give up on those two. But finding a way to ask if you can be part of a deal. Like I need bird dogs finding property. If you found land anywhere in Arizona and thought it would be a great Raising Cane's or an In-N-Out, you'd give me a call and we would collaborate on that. But I learned that probably just in the since 2021, about collaborating with people. I probably did too much on my own, kind of had an impact on my health, and collaboration to me is key in teaming up with the right people. You can go so much faster to build that empire and partner up with the right people. I mean, you're lucky so lucky to have your wonderful mom and dad as your mentors, but finding the right mentor to get started and just asking and attending events, listening to these podcasts, and really learning from people and taking action. You can keep learning forever, but unless you take action, nothing happens. So, taking action.
Making some boss moves. Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Pam. I think we both learned quite a bit. And I am so excited, that we met and that we now have an opportunity to possibly even collaborate, on deals in the future as well. If anyone wants to get a hold of you, if they have a piece of land that would fit, that perhaps would be good for a Cane's, like you said, or an In-N-Out burger, where can people get a hold of you? Where can I heard you being active on LinkedIn, right?
I'm very active on LinkedIn. I'm on there every single day. So please follow me on LinkedIn, just Pamela Goodwin. And then also my website, just Google it, pamgoodwin.com in there, because when I tell people I'm an author, I'm in competition with this Pam Goodwin that does these erotica books. So every time you just put in the search bar, Pam Goodwin, her name keeps popping up. So when I tell them I'm an author, they're like, ah. I'm just writing about good old boring, good old commercial real estate. Maybe I should write hers because then you become at the top. But just go to my website, reach out to me, or just send me an email, pam@pamgoodwin.com.
Awesome.
And I respond to every email.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Pam. You are like a never-ending, fountain of information and source of information. And with 30 years, trailblazing in the commercial real estate space, you probably have forgotten more than people like our age know, about it. So thank you so much. So informational. For everyone listening in, if this was an episode that you enjoyed, give us a 5-star review, give us some love. And we're excited to come into, your space and into your world with another episode of Becoming Wealthy in the weeks to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you so much.